a good story or a joke. I usually will tell a story about my kids that I find funny. So my most recent story about my kids that just struck me as super funny as the person who pays for all their stuff is my daughters are taking a class this summer. They're taking a personal finance class. So one of their assignments was they had to figure out their net worth. So my daughter calls me, and she's like, Mom, when you get home, you're going to have to help me figure out my net worth. And I'm like, your net worth, you're 16. You have no money, no job, no anything. I'm like, this is really easy. I said, so if you want to get started, before I get home, I said, here's what you do. You go into my bedroom, stand in front of my mirror, and look at yourself and calculate what everything you have on cost. I said, and there you go, assignment done. And she's like, Mom, they want to know about my investments. And I'm like, investments? No. So it was hilarious. So I don't know how the final project turned out, but I think she may have gotten a little creative. Because my child probably filled in every blank on the thing. So, yeah, she's probably pretty wealthy. But I thought that was hilarious. So, yeah, but I thought that was hilarious. I'm sitting there like, I pay for all your stuff. I'm going broke paying for all your stuff, and you're talking to me about net worth. So that was my funny story about my children. So, as I mentioned, we will be talking about payroll reporting and deposits. If I get to speaking too fast, which I do sometimes, please let me know. If you have any questions, don't feel like you have to hold them. Just speak up and we'll address them. All right? Like the exciting world of payroll reporting, right? So, before we really start, I just want to go over just some definitions or terms that appear in CARS that we started to use as a result of a change in our system. So previously, we always referred to your payroll reports as payroll reports. In CARS, they call them payroll headers, and then the information or the detail information on the payroll reports or for one specific employee is referred to as the payroll detail on your report. And the payroll summary, that's a new term. What it is in CARS, if you're looking for payroll information that you've uploaded, you can go more than one way to find it. And one of the ways you can go is through the payroll summary. The great thing about the payroll summary for those counties that pay more than once a month is that you can pull up a payroll summary for a specific month, and you can see all the payrolls you've uploaded for that specific month. So it kind of helps you when you have multiple payrolls to find just information for one specific month instead of going to the list that just lists all your payroll. All right, so our biggest challenge when we changed over to CARS was formatting the payroll report. So as you all know, we have two types of reports or two different formats with the same information. One of them is called the flat or the text file. That is the file that it has to be created by a programmer. So your programmer would speak to our IT department, and they'd give them all the parameters, and that's how that file is created. So what we're going to discuss is the Excel file that's usually formatted by the counties that use the Excel version, because the flat file is usually pretty easy. Once it's set, it's set. I do want to remind you, though, that if your county pays any portion of the contributions on behalf of your employees, that we do still need a documentation of how much you pay for your employees for a specific payroll. We are required to collect this information by the auditors because on the payroll report that you send to us, it only has one column for contributions. And looking at that report, you can't tell if it's paid by the county, comes out of the employee's check, or anything like that. So we have to basically prove to the auditors that the way we post it in our system is the way it came out of the employee's check. All right, so formatting payroll reports. One of the things you have to remember is you have to name it a certain way prior to upload, and that naming convention is the county number with 3 characters, the name of the county and the word county, and then that date you see on the end is the payroll begin date of the file that you're uploading. And it has to be, the year, first, month, and day in that format, the name of the file is also case sensitive. So the name, the county name, and the word county must be capitalized. Also keep in mind that only CERF participants receiving pay on that payroll need to appear on your report. If they're on leave and not getting any type of pay, you can't just enter a zero for their salary and hours and leave them on the report. They must be removed completely.
What? Tell me again what has to be capitalized.
The name of the county and the word county in the name. So remember, all columns that contain numeric values must have 2 digits after the decimal point. And you can't have any blank columns. You must have zeros if the amount is 0. You can't just leave it blank. I did want to mention that the reason that this part was so challenging as far as when we switched to the new system, when you guys used to send your payroll reports to us, if there weren't zeros in the columns or if the socials didn't have 9 characters, we would input that stuff instead of coming back to you and say, hey, can you put in a few zeros and send it back? Because we knew what you did, you know. And so we would just make those minor formatting changes instead of coming back to you guys. And then we changed systems, and then we started calling you and saying, you have to do it this way. And you all were like, now, wait a minute. I've always done it this way. So this challenging part of formatting is really all our fault because we just never came back to you with those things. So you were not aware that we were making those changes in the system or changing to your file. Now, we wouldn't change big stuff. We'd only change formatting things, not the actual information. So, again, all our fault. You can blame Darla. And I don't know if you all know, but whenever I blame somebody, it's always the person that's not in the room. So I'm here, Kim's here, Darla's not here. We're going to blame her. So she did it. So, but, yeah, that's why it was such a challenge. But also remember, you can't hide any rows or columns. If you hide those rows and columns and you just can't see them, the computer still reads them. So you can't have any blank rows or columns. Your Social Security number must be 9 digits. So you have to keep those leave zeros by formatting that column as a text. And then your dates have to match. You can't have one date at the top of the form and then a different date throughout the form. So your payroll begin date, end date, creation date, receipt date has to be uniform throughout the spreadsheet. It has to be the same date. Okay? And the biggest thing is you have to have only one worksheet in your spreadsheet. Even if additional worksheets are blank, it'll try to read them. There's nothing there to read, but the system will try to read it, and it'll cause an error.
Only one.
Okay.
Only one.
Yes, basically, yeah. One worksheet, one tab in your spreadsheet. All right, so ideally, when your spreadsheet's all formatted pretty for the computer, this is what it looks like. Okay, so now that we're all formatted really good, we get to upload it. So to upload, you just log into your county portal and you click the Upload Files hyperlink, and then you select the file type of the file that you're uploading, so either the Excel file or the flat file. Then you select the frequency of the payroll that you're uploading. So if your county only pays monthly, the only option you're going to see in your drop-down menu is monthly and special, because everybody can do a special payroll if they need to. So you're only going to show those frequencies that are available to your county. If your county ever decides to change its payroll frequency, then you'll have to contact CERF before you can upload a payroll under that new frequency, because we will have to add that option, and we would also have to put it in the members' records that are affected by that change. So once you select your frequency, then you select the file that you want to upload, and you click the Upload File button.
Right. And you do accept text files?
Yes, as long as it's formatted as we request. So if you would like to switch to the flat file, you can have your programmer contact our IT department, and I can give you that information. And, yeah, you can set it up that way. The flat files tend to be, from you guys' point of view, a lot easier. because all the formatting is done, basically is what it is. So yeah, if you need to make that change, just give us a call. Once the file is uploaded, one of two things happens. You either get a list of errors immediately that appear on the screen. Those are file errors. So it'll check and make sure all the socials have 9 characters and things like that. If they don't pass the file check, then it lists what didn't pass, and you have to make those changes directly in the file that you're uploading, save them, and upload that file again. If it passes all the formatting checks, then the file is actually uploaded into our system, and then there are further checks on the data in the file. And those you will see later when you pull up the header. Any questions? Okay. So once you get it uploaded in our system, this is where you can go, or one of the ways you can go to actually locate the file. I usually just go into the payroll header and hit the search button. I call it the lazy man search. At some point, and if that's how you usually locate your files, it may require in the future that you do enter some type of search criteria, and that is because our search windows only will display 100 records. So since we're fairly new in the system, you haven't uploaded 100 payrolls yet, so you can still search that way. But if you ever can't find a file that you know you've done, but it tells you at the top if there's more than 100 records that could have been retrieved. If that number exceeds 100, then you may have to put in some specific criteria, like the month of the payroll is usually the easiest to locate a payroll, or if you know the payroll begin date, receipt date. There are several criteria, search criteria you can use to help narrow that search. So you just pull up the payroll. When you open that payroll, each row is assigned a status. If the status of that row is valid, that means the information has been checked on that row. There's no questions about it. It passes the test. If it's in review, then there's a question that needs to be addressed. Okay. So if a row is in review, it will either be an error or a warning, or informational even. If it's an error, that means that something has to be done before you can get past that. So what would be classified as an error? If the contribution amount isn't the correct percentage of the salary that's listed, then we expect either the salary may have been entered incorrectly, contribution may be entered incorrectly. If it's one of those items, then you would just fix whichever one is wrong, click save, and it'll recheck the information. If by some goofy payroll glitch or something that everything listed there is correct and just the incorrect amount was pulled, we don't want you to change it to what we think it should be or what the system calculated it to be based on the salary, but you would have to enter like a comment in the box that says, hey, we underpaid or overpaid by whatever amount, and we'll correct it in the future. And then you'll suppress the warning. But it will require you to tell us why that information, why we're getting that message. If it's a warning, because the most common warning that you probably see is about the salary threshold, like the salary is so much more than it was in the previous payroll. As long as that additional salary is not the result of any type of payout that was paid to the member in the current year but earned any prior year, then you can just suppress the warning. If they did receive some type of payout of time that was earned prior to the year it was paid, then we need the dollar amount of that portion, and then suppress the warning. In addition to rows being in review or valid, there's also at the very bottom of the payroll header screen is a list of people that are missing from the report, if any. So if you have anybody in the system that's not listed as out on some type of leave, but they don't appear on this report, they will be flagged at the bottom. And they'll be listed, and all you have to do is enter either the change form or the leave form or the term information, either if they're term vested, send it to your benefits specialist, or enter it in cards if they're non-vested. Once you do that, then you can suppress the warning at the top of the page after you've done your part, because they'll still be listed there, but as long as you've done your part, then you can just move on. So once you've addressed all the questions and all the rows are valid, you'll get your submit button. And the key is always remember to submit. Submit your payroll. That's probably the main call you get from us. Can you go ahead and submit your payroll? But submitting the payroll, that's how we know you're done, and that you're ready for us to take over and go from there. Any questions about payroll reporting, entering information, questions? When we do the one-on-one, we'll go over specific stuff specific to your county. So if you have any questions, then we can address them. We also have a list of errors, common errors that you usually see that we'll give you. And hopefully that'll help. Okay, so we'll just talk about entering deposits then. Okay, so if your county submits their funds by check, that process did not change. They just send them to KeyBank like they always have with the proper documentation. But if you remit fees by ACH, then instead of going into the KeyBank website, as it was done before, you go into the CARS portal. Now, I would like to say that if you submit your fees by check and you want to switch to ACH, call me immediately. Please, I would love for you to make that change. It is really, really easy. It wasn't the easiest process to switch whenever we were with KeyBank, but right now, switching to ACH and CARS is easy. It's as simple as entering your banking information, which everybody had to do in the beginning when we switched to CARS. And to enter your banking information, you would log into CARS and click the county profile hyperlink. And then all the way at the bottom, you usually have to scroll, there's a bank information panel, and within that panel, there's an add a bank account button. And once you click the add a bank account button, you just have to enter the name of your bank, the type of account that the funds will be pulled from, and then you will select active because you're going to use that account. The only time you would change it to inactive is if you switch banks and you don't ever want to have funds pulled from that account again. You can go in and mark it as inactive. So usually it's active. Then you enter your bank routing number twice. You know, as we do that, a check for accuracy there. And then your bank account number twice. And you click the save button. And as long as all your numbers match, the two bank account numbers, the two routing numbers that you enter, all that matches, then it'll say changes successfully made. If they don't match, and it'll tell you at the top in red, you know, what didn't match, so you can make the change. And then you only have to enter your bank account information once, unless there's a change in your banking information. So if you enter checks, if you want to switch to ACH, you go in and enter your bank account information, now you're ready to remit via ACH. It's immediate. So I really encourage anyone who does checks to make the change. And so now we can enter our deposit. So again, you just log into the portal, click the Make a Deposit hyperlink, and then you have to select your deposit method, which will be ACH pool, and then there's a new deposit button. And then there's a deposit input window that opens when you click the new deposit button. And then in this window, you'll select the bank account that you want the funds to pull from, because some counties do use different bank accounts. You're going to enter the total amount of the deposit and click the Save button. And then once you click the Save button, then you'll get an Add a Row button. This is the button that you use to add as many rows as you need for the different categories of fees that you're entering. So if you're just entering employee and county contributions, you'd add 2 rows. Select your category from the drop-down menu, the deposit type drop-down menu. Enter the amount for that specific category and the period for that category. So like, you know, when you're reporting your payroll funds, it's always the period that they get their check. So if they get their check in June, it'd be June 2017. And you'll do that for each of your categories. And once you've divided your deposit among all your categories, you click the Save button again, and it'll check to make sure the individual breakdown that you entered among your different categories matches your total at the top. And as long as that matches, then you'll get the submit deposit button. If it doesn't match, again, it'll tell you. So if the period is keyed wrong, it'll tell you that. If the numbers don't add up, it'll tell you that. But once all that passes the test, you'll get your submit deposit button. Again, you have to submit. If you never hit the submit deposit button, the funds will never be pulled from your account. They'll just be kind of sitting out there. And that's it. Entering deposits. Any questions about that? All right. Deposit exception form. This form mostly pertains to counties that pay any portion of their contributions on behalf of their employees. So if they pay contributions and then those employees that you pay contributions for later terminate non-vested, those contributions go back to the county in the form of a credit that they can use towards future deposits for county contributions. So that is the main purpose of this form. So if you do have a county contribution credit that you would like to apply, you have to complete a deposit exception form by clicking the deposit exceptions hyperlink and click the new button, because you're going to enter a new one, and then you enter the receipt date of the payroll begin date, and end date of the payroll that you want to use the credit for. And then you enter the total amount that you should pay for that payroll. So the total amount that's due to CERF. And then there's a funds remitted box where you enter the amount you're actually sending. And then down below in the form, there will be a box to enter the amount of the credit that you want to apply. And then you click the Save button. And as long as the amount due less the amount you're actually remitting equals the amount of the credit that you listed, you'll have a Submit button to submit the form. And again, you have to submit. Okay. If you want to use your county credit, you have to complete this form because CERF is not allowed to apply your county credit without your permission. Any questions on the deposit exception form? All right. Final verification report. The final verification report is different from the initial. I know in some situations the initial report is not always required. The final verification report is always required. The other difference also is that the accounts department will always create the final verification report and send it to you guys to complete after we get the final payroll for any term vested or pending retiree. On that form, what we're asking for, I guess I'll tell you how to find the form first, right? So you'll click on the salary verifications hyperlink, and then you can enter whatever search criteria you have handy, the person's last name, their social. There's not usually a lot of forms out there, so if you hit the search button, you're probably going to get who you're looking for, even if you don't enter any search criteria. So you click the box next to the person of the form you want to complete, and you click the Open button. And then the portion we need you to complete, because part of it will be completed already, we'll list the term date, we'll list the last bit of payroll information that was reported for them. You need to enter any contributions that were paid to CERF that came out of the employee's check, employee contributions. If your county paid any contributions for that member, you would need to list those separately in the box provided, and then the total paid for that member. You also need to list their gross final year salary. In some cases, if it's early in the current year, we'll ask for the prior year's salary as well, and that box will be there as well. And then another thing we need is if that person, due to terminating, received any type of payout of vacation, comp, or sick leave that was paid in the year they terminated but earned any prior year, we need the dollar amount of that in the box provided. If the amount is zero, we need you to enter zero. And then after you enter all that requested information, you click the Save button, and then you send it back to us. And as long as it matches what we have in our system, you're done. If you don't, then we'll just ask you some questions. Any questions about the final verification report? I would just like to reiterate what Jim said earlier and just let you know that you can always call us. We would love for you to just call us and not spend a whole lot of time on something we probably can answer in a couple minutes, because that is absolutely why we are here. So I know a lot of people calling, oh, I'm so sorry to call you. Never be sorry to call us. That is seriously why we're here. If you never call us, they're going to think they don't need us and kick us out. So don't feel like you can't call us. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thanks, Cynthia. And I don't know that Jim mentioned it earlier, but he does go out to counties, and I think we'll probably be hitting most of your counties this year if he hasn't already, and just meets with participants and can give a brief presentation on CERF. So if you feel that there's a need for that in your county, let Jim know or let one of us know. So, okay, lunch is set out in the break room. If you guys want to grab your lunch and then actually bring it back here to eat, Richard's going to give his presentation while you guys are eating so that we can get to the one-on-one sessions this afternoon. Okay, please continue eating, but this is Richard Anderson, and he oversees the savings plan. So he's going to give you kind of a brief overview of